Hi everyone, Ron here, Variable Play, and welcome back to LarongAtin. I'm
Hello, good
joined
evening.
tonight by Freddy Tan of Ludo's Distributor. So, it has been a while. Sobrang busy na. Sobrang busy na ng, I think we've been running events more and more throughout
Hmm.
these past few months.
Yeah.
And how's the I know it's Gold Rush season. There's a lot of tournaments running at the moment, so it should be quite hectic also. Even the other designers are also quite swamped, so it's only just going to be us tonight,
Hmm.
so Freddie and I. But before we recently went to Asian Board Games Festival, ABGF, um, which is I think has some potential to become quite quite the convention, um, uh, especially for Asia. So it's something to look forward to. But before we go there, let's recap maybe any recent games, Sir Freddy, that you've played. May that it could also be a little bit from the
Hmm.
convention if those are what you remember. But what are the recent games that you have played?
Well, yung Stereo Mind
Ah,
was one of the more memorable games at the ABGF.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
Sushi Royale,
Yes.
Sushi Royale dahil talagang ang ganda ng table presence niya. Stereo
Mm-hmm.
Mind because it's quite unique and
Yep.
it adds I think it's magandang innovation niya and yung
Mm-hmm.
pag-integrate niya ng ng sounds and music
Yeah. And
to tabletop
turns out
experience.
that we slightly played it wrong.
Mhm.
Slightly. Not really
Okay.
that big. Um so you know when we got the card and we looked at the card, scanned it, and then looked at the
Mhm.
card,
Mhm.
you're just supposed to draw the card, and then whatever is on top of the deck, that's what you scan. So everything is like every music can be
Anything.
played against any clue set,
Okay.
which is like,
So
oh
talagang
wow,
nagmi-mix and match siya dapat.
yeah,
Hindi
yeah.
siya okay.
Hindi siya static. It's
Mhm.
it's not 60 clues and that's it. It's
Mhm.
oh, 60 times
60
60
times 60.
combinations,
Yes.
which is a lot.
Oh, tumataas yung replayability niya.
Yeah, yeah.
Kasi
Tumaas
yun nga yung
sobra.
iniisip natin before was, yung Dixit, 'di ba?
Yeah,
Eventually, if it's the same group, yung replayability niya is, goes down because the
yeah, yeah.
pictures
I
are
well,
ano, eh.
you have to play this 360 times
Mhm.
in order for you to get yeah the same
Actually,
to play.
3,600 times.
So sorry, 3,600 times. Yeah, 3,600 times in order for you to play every possible combination of this game.
Mhm.
I think that's a very good deal already in terms of replayability.
Mm.
We could actually play this. I have tried it with when I did the unboxing a few weeks ago, or was that last week? I think it was last week. I did the unboxing for this, and Danny was with me, but she was just online. So we played it online. Like I would share where the audio clip, where it's going, and then before that I would type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as my clues, and then she would type her response first. Kasi ako naman I can already set it on mine. So yon. It's if we have time for tonight and you're interested with our audience, if there's people
Mhm.
that would be interested in playing, we could try it out. It's very interesting. Plus, sobrang cool nung you get to put your phone inside the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
that
of course,
that
during ABGF. ang nilaro natin ng nilaro actually yung mga sarili nating games, eh.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Ulit pretty much. But we barely actually had any time to play. Uh,
Talagang ano, pinilit natin na parang we were very
mm,
deliberate. Uy, um,
kailangan nating subukan
parang
'to.
ano, palit muna tayo. So,
Mm,
pero day one, syempre we were just trying to figure out. So yun, actually, we're already talking about ABGF. And yeah, pretty much same thing with me. My most recent plays mostly are revolving around ABGF too. But my reference game there was the we will see it later. It's like the tank game. And it very gateway friendly. Although the components are not as fun because they're very it makes the game very affordable. But I would love to see something a bit more, spruced up. They were thinking of putting up miniatures. I told them, actually, for your game, the miniatures are good, but poker chip. And I showed them how they
mhm,
could do it, and it like you would scale the board a little bit bigger, but it would make the game feel much better. So I showed them war chest and the other
mhm,
like. So I don't know. I know their Kickstarter is currently running, so we'll see. But I like the accessibility. And but the other one that we also quite liked was the Kopitiam game, the
mhm. Kopi King
the
of
Kopi King.
Daryl.
Yeah.
Daryl
So
Chow.
Daryl Chow's Kopi King is this sort of it's yeah galaxy trucker. Instead of
Mhm,
looking through tiles, you're looking through cards, and you have these recipes of um, iced coffee, or let's say black tea, and so you have to look for the recipes. So maybe coffee, so some coffee beans, some milk,
mhm,
uh, and depends on the order. It will have more points if it's like a secret recipe or sort of like a um, takeout. That means that when you stuff it in there, it just you can't look at it again. Um, but it's fun in the sense that it's like a mad dash of where are the ingredients, but at the same time, it's actually quite informative because I'm looking at the ingredients and I'm going like, you know what? This is what they look like whenever because we ordered a couple of times there, a couple of nights. We got
mhm,
to drink the same drinks that are in that game.
mhm.
Um, we saw how fast the uncles were mixing.
Yeah, yung si Tomas pa papaluin nung ano, eh. Ay, yeah.
Mapapalo ka, eh, 'no?
Oo,
Kasi
eh.
ayaw ayaw ayaw
Ayaw
sumunod, eh.
makinig sa instructions, eh.
Sabing hintayin, eh.
Hindi makapaghintay dun sa sinerve sa kanyang ano, eh, ano ba yun, yung breakfast, yung ano, yung
The
egg, eh.
yes.
Oo, there's also this other game that, I was able to play. It's a game from Taiwan, but I wasn't able to play it during the event. I played it after the event
Oh, okay.
nung, bumisita na ako sa ano, kay Daryl,
Mhm,
the day after. And I met up with the Taiwanese publisher there.
mhm.
And meron silang interesting game na it's about ano, uh, it's about guessing yung amount of fiber, amount of calories, amount of in vegetables. So parang Salad Master
Wow!
ba yung pangalan ng title?
Oh, yeah, 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 I saw the game and
So
didn't get to
actually natuwa ako sa kanya kasi it's actually very educational. Natututo ka sa
right.
nutritional value nung game, nung ano
Yeah,
nung mga vegetables and mga kung ano namang food stuff. So
right.
they have 2 versions, one is salad and one is meats.
Okay.
So dalawa ng version ng game na yun.
They could
Very interesting.
they they just need to contact all of the label producers, and they can already make this for everything else. Soft drinks. So just guess the sugar. You're
Mm,
just or the guess the calories.
Mhm.
Cool, cool.
Calories, fiber, ano ba yun nandun? Calories, fiber, may several stats, eh.
Yes. Well, yung nutritional, so
Mm,
vitamins, ilan yung vitamin C niya,
mm,
magnesium content niya.
mm.
So
So
basically
parang
take
ano
the
siya, eh, yung pipili ka kung anong stat yung gusto ninyong for that round. One player will choose it and then pataasan or pababaan.
that feels
And
like
then you
Super
pick
Trump.
from your ingredients, ilalaban mo ngayon.
Okay. But that feels like Super Trump, but using the food label behind.
Yeah, pero blind. Hindi ko alam yung values ng akin, pero nakikita
Ah,
ko yung values ninyo. So
gotcha.
parang nakabaligtad.
So it's using the Hanabi style. Oh, that's the twist. So I
Mm.
don't actually see it. I'm now looking at my cards, guessing. Well, this seems
What
to
its
be
value in relation to
healthier
everybody else.
than your
Yes,
card. So I'm
yes.
I'm thinking I'm higher than you. Ah,
Mhm.
brilliant. I
So,
grabe galing. That small twist changed everything. Otherwise, it's just super tough. But
mhm.
cool. Okay. So that people can see what we are talking about. We're gonna be playing a clip. Let me just uh, I muted the audio. That way we won't get into copy strikes. So I'm gonna replace the audio. Yun.
Okay, we're back.
So, we're back. Nagpo-play na yung aking ano. Auto-play yung episode ko. Um, so yun. If you guys seen, we were featured a couple of times. And there were a lot of games. Um, we wish we had a chance to actually try a lot of them, but since we were also doing the demos and everybody was packed, like
Mhm.
constantly
Tuloy-tuloy yung dating ng
players,
tao.
yeah,
Yeah.
players upon players, and they tried, they were very eager to try out all of the different games. That was pretty amazing. And the sales booth was always constantly full. Okay. Kasi they have this passport, and I can show now the passport there. Yes, a beautiful passport where they would stamp. If you got to try their game, they will stamp their country
Mhm.
with their publisher. So went to Hong Kong, went to Japan. I even had from Korea, the guys who did Stereo Mind. So
Dito pa yung stamp
this
natin.
yes, that's our stamp.
Yeah.
So whenever people visit the Philippines, we give them a stamp of the Lubus distributors. And you can see that some countries would have multiple publishers also inside. So that's pretty cool. You know, the level of maturity that you see varying. So some countries would
Mhm.
have a more mature market. Some countries are pretty much same as ours. Um,
Yeah. I think Vietnam, isa lang, no? Like us, isa lang rin.
yes, yes,
Pero yung
and
Thailand and yung Thailand and Taiwan were medyo marami sila.
yes,
Thailand.
yeah.
Mhm.
Thailand, Taiwan, they had a lot of big players.
Mhm.
Um, Singapore also had a good set of
Mhm.
publishers. Um, but it was also interesting. I mentioned in my uh, episode in Variable Play where the we had similar challenges. Everybody was asking, "Who's your printer? Where do
Yes.
you print?" It's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean you're asking us where you print? Like we want to know where you guys print, and they're also like we're also looking for where we can print 'cause currently, and you can see it. You can see how, for example, like this is a brilliant idea, you know, box box as the box, so using magnet and whatnot. But that meant that this whole thing is flat, sticker and then flat.
Mhm.
And so it had some design issues, of course. Now that now that you're opening, there's some issues with that. But you can see from the inside that they're going like, oh, we just gave you the cards. There's no more compartment for the cards. You figure out what you're gonna do with the compartment and for the tokens. So you can see the punch out technology is there, but same issue. Like, oh, how do we do the box? Let's find some cool ways where we can do the box. So things like those where like, hirap pala talagang gumawa ng board game. Hindi siya ganun ka simpleng gawin.
Yeah. It really requires a specialized machines and specialized skills, I guess.
Yes, 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 yeah,
So hindi
yeah,
porket maraming printers sa isang lugar, kayang gumawa ng board games.
yeah,
And that's what we realized kasi including the guy from India, which we would have expected na ano kasi like nag-usap nga kami. Told him I thought Cartamundi was in India. Pero sabi niya in Cartamundi only does like big volumes.
yep,
So hindi puwede yung mga ano niya, yung kanyang mga designs dahil hindi siya papansinin ng Cartamundi, yung mga smaller print runs for independent publishers. So yun yung
And then
naging issue
Lynn,
niya. Yeah.
I wrap.
So I guess pretty much we're still stuck with the ano,
Yes,
very
yes.
very limited options.
Yeah, we still have to work with what's available locally.
Mhm.
So like uh, Plataforma was done locally na, no? Sir?
Yes,
So
everything
100% local. But we had to, yeah, similar to Stereo Mind, we had to be creative. Hi,
in the
Sir
packaging.
Edwin.
Hello.
So have to be creative with the packaging. Um, that way we can produce it locally. Otherwise,
Mhm.
it's not that easy.
Mhm.
Um, but overall, Sir Freddy, what was your impression before going there? What was your expectations of the event, and then in contrast to when you've arrived and sort of seen the people flow in, and what was the difference between your expectation before going there and then seeing the actual thing?
Uh, this is the second event that I think Daryl has run na parang ganito. The first one was in 2019 na I didn't even get to join it. Although that weekend I was actually in Singapore for another event, and I found out he was running an event that same weekend pala on Monday.
Mm-hmm,
And then I saw some pictures online, and I saw the pictures online, and hindi siya masyadong malaki. It wasn't a big event eh,
mm-hmm,
that time. And nakwento rin sa akin ni Daryl na at that time medyo mas last minute niyang plinano.
mm-hmm,
Kasi nga sa nakita niya na merong yung event na pinuntahan ko nga where some other publishers were, regional publishers were also at I think it was called uh Game Start in
mm-hmm,
Singapore.
mm-hmm,
So this year ang ginawa ni Daryl medyo mas mahaba yung planning stage niya. But of course I wasn't expecting I was expecting it to be around the same size as in 2019.
mm-hmm.
But I was pleasantly surprised sa dami ng tao considering Fusionopolis is kind of out of the way
Yes,
for Singapore
it,
residents because it's not a residential area.
it's the sort of their business work district.
Mhm.
So normally you go there when
Week
you're working.
weekdays,
So
yeah.
weekdays,
Yeah,
and that's a
hindi
weekend where we went.
yeah, so that mall where we were at is not hindi it doesn't have a high foot traffic during weekends.
Yep.
Pero the people were there, I think specifically talagang sinadya nila yung
Yes.
board game event eh
Yep.
na,
And went there for 2 days.
yep. Although medyo ano, parang iba naman yung taong na-demohan natin, but probably we're
Yes,
still
sir.
there
Yes,
at
sir.
different areas na lang siguro, 'no?
Yes,
We
sir.
were at 3 floors. Ang nakita lang
Yep.
natin dalawa, we didn't see the one floor
So,
because we
sobrang
didn't know
busy
the
natin. May
yeah.
third floor pa pala.
So, there's 3 floors of, gaming tables and, lots of publishers from Asia.
Yep. The countries that participated, he had so you have Hong Kong, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, uh, Taiwan, Thailand. There's actually a representation of United States by Level 99 Games, and then Vietnam. So it's quite a big list of countries, and again, multiple delegates per country
Mhm,
that went there. Yeah, yeah. And galing, the whole passport idea and everybody. Uh, the crowd is something also we did not expect. I think
mhm. Yes.
the so we went there. We arrived. I think user Freddy arrived a day
Mhm,
earlier.
mhm.
He got to meet the designers. Doon nga na natin nakuha yung sentiment na challenges of publishing in
Yes.
Asia, because the big players are eating up all of the big factory line.
Mhm,
Um, and then the day itself, when we started preparing in the morning, it was very loose. We just find the table where you guys wanna set up. It wasn't like booth setup. It was
yeah,
set up your table, put a sign beside you, and
yeah.
off you go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Um,
Like, sinabihan lang tayo ng, just find 2 tables that you know, parang una-una na lang.
yeah, so we ended up somewhat a little bit not the front area, but a little bit
Mhm,
second row.
mhm,
Um, and then people started coming in, and
mhm,
it, the only time I felt somebody hesitate, there were a few times. Most of the time, it was just them approaching. Hey, can we try out your game? Okay. Or the question normally they would ask is like, for how many players? I can do four. Okay. So there are two. There's another two. Those will join them, and off we go. And then we start teaching. And I was pleasantly surprised that um, they they were enjoying the complexities of the games that we brought with us. Um, they were not our usual sort of mass market fare. You know,
mhm,
I did bring plataforma there, probably because they wouldn't get the references. It's very local.
mhm.
But at the same time, so we brought um, Cyril Rogues there, which did quite well. Did a lot of sales. We also brought in Plataforma. I'm sorry, not Pawikan
Oh, we can
Patrol.
patrol.
So Pawikan Patrol, um, the kids loved it. So pag may family, tapos nandala nila yung mga kids sila, Mikey, 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 sambutin mo na to. And they stay and they enjoy the the, the chaos and of course the MNL 48 um, was also something that they sort of
Yeah. Surprise
was
sila
like, yeah, like
with that.
you made the game
Parang
for that.
yeah.
And like, okay, show me how it plays. And so they were very much interested to try that out. My watch list was also played a couple of times, especially if it's like a big group. It's easy for them to play watch list. uh what else did we bring? Combatron,
Mhm.
found some plays too, and then my folded wishes, which I think I thought I was already good at teaching folded wishes before I went to Singapore. I think I'm a lot better now at teaching folded wishes. It's like, hmm, I have taught folded wishes
Yep.
more than any other time, even if at the time I was designing and playtesting this game. I I played it so many times. I mean, taught it so many times this convention, and it was just fun and amazing to see them react
Mhm,
and the they had this expression that they would whenever I would go through the different steps. So you place your token, you play your actions, you push, and then you take this new tile exiting on the other end, and that's your
mhm.
action tile for the next round. And
Yes.
they had a consistent, oh,
Yep.
ah, and then
Dun pa lang sa
suddenly,
second step, 'di ba?
yeah.
Yung
So,
ano, eh, and it's pretty consistent yung reaction ng tao, eh. And I also actually pinapanood kita yung demo mo and ginagaya ko
mm,
yung script mo
mm.
when I was demoing it. So nagustuhan ko yung script mo sa demoing, eh. So yun din yung ginagawa ko, eh.
Yeah,
And talagang I was really the crowd reaction and the way the crowd reacts to, the games we brought,
yeah.
uh, I would have to say I'm surprised even if I was expecting the yung so tama yung expectation ko ng kung anong games yung papatok sa Singapore.
Hmm, hmm.
But even then na I was able to successfully predict what would work, I was surprised at how well it worked
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
Singapore community. Talagang gulat na
yeah,
gulat ako, eh.
yeah.
Kasi, hmm, lalo na yung with Folded Wishes, talagang I was really surprised kasi talagang yung mga tao kita mo talagang napapa-"Wow!" Gumaganon, eh. And
May,
hindi hindi ito yung patronizing na ano, because we don't know these people.
yeah, Yeah, they
So
have completely no clue of who I
yeah,
am. There's no, oh, this
they're not
guy
our
is
friends
doing,
or
yeah,
parang that they need to be nice to us.
yep.
And Singaporeans, they're more what
They're
is
very
more
straightforward.
yeah, they're more straightforward than Filipinos who are always
Yes.
have a tendency to be nice, lalo na
Mm-hmm.
pag alam nila yung designer yung kausap nila.
Yep.
So
Yep. Yep.
talagang sobrang
There was this.
pleasantly surprised. Talagang yung sabi ko nga feeling ko validated ako, eh, kasi I felt that same thing when you were presenting me with this design the first time. Parang,
Mm,
wow, okay, na gano'n din ako, eh.
yep.
Yung pu-push tapos ito yung next action ko, parang okay,
Yeah.
'di ba? And yung even when we tell people that, "Have you played Connect 4?" Tapos yeah, biglang 'pag in-explain mo na how this is like Connect 4, biglang wow, talagang yung iba yung expression, eh, meron talagang audible
I,
na nangyayari.
I mean, gusto ko na nga siyang i-record. Nahihiya lang ako kasi, it's still private. I mean, it's
Mhm,
public but private at the same time. But it happened so consistently that I
mhm,
wish I had a recording of each time when they said it, because it
yeah,
was like, in the beginning, I wasn't like, oh, I knew people would say that, because that was sort of parang the nice trick of the game.
mhm,
But I didn't expect it to be consistent. Every time I teach it, that happens. And there
mhm,
was this one instance where, kasi folded wishes, when the players are quite good, the game increases in difficulty the more balanced the level of players are. And, and there was this one game where I was already like, medyo nagtagal sila ng konti kasi nag-AP na sila dahil mahirap ng talunin ng isa't isa.
mhm.
And I was already a little bit worried kasi parang they might, gusto
Natagalan
ko na
sila.
silang tanungin kung gusto nilang tapusin, or pwede namang ano, kung okay na, parang exit na, kasi nga parang feeling ko nahihirapan na sila. And I asked, and they're going, no, no, we're thinking. I mean, it's a pretty good game. And it's just, there's so many things you need to think about. And yeah. And they're all going like, yeah, yeah, I know. And they're just like, they have this con- not confused, but like trained thinking look, and
Mhm,
crunching. It's basically crunching. They're crunching the numbers. They're crunching their board, and then when somebody wins, it's an interesting reaction as well, because they're all sort of surprised and happy that their opponent figured out the win. It's like,
mm.
that's how you did it. Or if they all saw it and the other guy hasn't seen it yet, they're
Yes,
all like, you can see them like,
tatahimik ka, eh, 'no,
"Mm,
talagang
like, I'm not gonna say anything. I hope you don't find it."
yeah, Elvin's asking if we brought rogues there. Actually,
Yes,
that
we did.
game did also very well in Singapore.
Yes, yes,
Uh, like it's one of those the games that I expected to do well and it did. Talagang the funny thing is it's our games that didn't have IP on them that
yeah,
actually did better.
yes,
I think yung kasi when we're eto I'll be honest that sometimes when I ask like the guys at LarongAtin to design a game with an IP, medyo nililimit talaga namin yung design space niya because we're targeting a demographic that may not necessarily be a gamer. So
mm,
but Folded Wishes didn't have any of those restrictions, eh. Kasi nung
yeah,
dine-design pa lang siya, talagang international na yung iniisip, eh,
right,
'di ba? And na-prove nga natin dahil it did well in SN, na sold out siya sa SN no when it was first released, and it
yeah,
went on a second print run in the United States. Tapos
yes,
ngayon yung response natin na nakuha sa Singapore, validated that, 'di ba?
yeah,
So
yeah,
we know that the Filipino designers, I'm not saying we're better, I'm saying we're just as good, 'di
yeah.
ba?
We can compete. We
Yes,
can
so
we can play in the
we can play in the
same,
global
yeah, landscape. Yep, yep,
kailangan lang natin ng ano, ng exposure, more experience,
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
and I guess kailangan ng mag-aral. So, uh, if we Filipino game designers want to, really do something in this space, kailangan mag-aral.
Yep.
Kailangan you have to put in the work,
Yeah.
'di ba? You have to put in the work.
Yung na-amaze ako dun sa especially Gota,
Mhm.
um, and they're well, Gota, Plate, even Daryl, the their focus aside from mechanics,
Mhm.
like super easy to grok mechanics, but enough thinking space. Pero yung table presence, yung eye nila for table presence, and still being creative with what assets they have.
Mhm.
Ang galing eh. Doon ako naaliw na parang, okay, it looks good. It you see people when they see it, they would love to play it.
Yes.
So
Mm.
that's sort of I think the next things now that I need to study. A lot of the times the designs that I come in with, they're very
Very basic, puro
skeletal,
token.
the core framework. You can put in any
Mhm.
any design, but I now saw an avenue where, oh wow, that's interesting. I think um, Baron, who did
Alice.
Where's Alice, and
Sushi
the
Royale.
Sushi Royale plus his Dino game, Dino Derby, I think.
Mhm.
Um, I think he starts with presence first. He starts
Mm.
with components. It's not even
Yes.
theme first. He's like, "Ooh,
Yes.
I like this. It's so cute. It looks. I think it will look good." So he's like coming from a totally different angle,
Mhm.
one that I haven't ever visited or explored. Designing from. So I would still probably start mechanics, but now think about the presence as well. So it's not
Mhm.
necessarily the theme, but like just the overall real estate. Like how would my pieces, which I think why Folded Wishes also did quite well, and Rogues there, because the look at the table
Mhm.
looks interesting. There's a s
Yes.
there's still constant interaction between players. Actually, they're always just constantly looking at what you're doing. So
Mhm.
I think those allowed us, but now like what can we do next
Yeah.
that can still keep in the same space?
Yun nga sinabi ko sa'yo, 'di ba? I think yung ano talaga si Barono, ang ginagawa niya ano, he sees something like maybe in a toy store or a toy shop in Japan and then,
Or
"Hey,
an
I can
arts
use
and
this in a
crafts
game."
store.
Yeah, 'di ba? So, baligtad yung design process niya, nakikita niya muna yung components bago niya gagawin yung game, eh. So, it's
Oh, pero
really
siya yung
interesting.
ano, siya yung
Mm,
talagang kung marami ang lamesa ko, lame, nasa harap ko siya eh. Mas
mm,
marami sa kanya ang nakapila. Kung sa akin
mm,
nakapila apat-apat, sa kanya anim-anim, pito-pito yung nakapila sa kanya.
mm.
Kasi,
Taas ng table presence niya, eh.
oo eh, taas ng table presence niya eh. So, meron ding mga big games doon that I was not able to try because of the limited time na. I really wished I could have tried them. Um, so, yon nakita ko talaga na I think for the Asian market, there's still a good, hindi naman wala ng tao eh. Hindi
Mhm,
naman natenga eh. The people are not intimidated that it's a big game. So I'm like,
mhm,
wow, that's also something that I noticed that I was not expecting. Because typically in like a convention space, mahirap magpaupo ng
mhm,
kung pagdating mo pa lang parang folded wishes pa lang. Minsan sa local scenarios, hindi natin agad madaling
mm.
mapalaro kasi nga okay,
'Pag
at
nakitang
least
abstract, matatakot
abstract
na.
baka parang gaano katagal ba 'yan? Diba? Pero that was also interesting to see. At least now it kind of opens up the design space.
Mhm.
Na if you want to design a more complex game, instead of looking at things from, hey, I want to compete in, um, hey, Levy, evening. Instead of looking at it competing in the global market right away, maybe you can also downsize a bit and say, I want to make this game for the Asian market.
Mhm.
And now suddenly it's not that crowded. It's there's still a lot, but
Mhm.
it's not as crowded as I want to bring my game to Gen Con. Like we
Mhm.
brought our game to Gen Con and SN, and we felt like a pebble in a big ocean. Like plop, and then it was just consumed. Like whoop. It's like, oh, naubos na siya agad. Okay, great. That's good, but at the same time, it's like everybody else was still pouring out games. Alam mo yun? So, parang nalulunod ka sa dami ng 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 games released in SN, released in Gen Con
Mhm.
na you don't get the same amount of airtime.
Yes.
But in conventions and venues like the ones Daryl Chow did for Asian Board Game Festival, I think it's a great space because then it's not too loud. Actually hindi nga ako napaos eh. Isa pang ano eh, isa pang nagulat ako. Like, uy, convention na ang dami ng tao. Tuloy-tuloy yung dating ng tao and hindi ako nagkasakit. Kasi I don't have to shout. I'm talking calmly. Ang pagod na lang talaga is yung, yung,
Habang
yung just the amount of
dami ng
repetitions.
tao. But you mentioned the big games, but it felt to me like parang characteristic of Asian board games. Generally, at least the publishers or the games I saw during the event, compared to, let's say, if we, you go to Gen Con or SN, the amount of big games talagang medyo mas konti. And
Yes,
I think
yes, yes.
characteristic ng Asian board game design is much more compact,
Yep,
both in yung amount ng contents, yung laki ng box,
yep,
yung end game length.
yes.
Mas mabibilang natin sa ano natin yung kung ilan lang yung big games eh. There's
Yeah.
very relatively few.
In the area where we were in,
Mm.
there was this parang circle
Yung game
sort of
from Malaysia,
game from Malaysia. The
forgot the
and then
name.
the other one that's very pink and yellow, very colorful. That one also felt quite big. They occupy quite a big of a
Mm.
workspace. So parang mga dalawa o tatlo lang silang big game. The
Mm.
rest, rapid.
Mm.
But when I say rapid, hindi naman yun like 10-15 minutes. So still meaty, 30 minutes to an hour type of games. Pero kumbaga, how much realty they occupy, table
Mm.
space they occupy, um, hindi siya ganun kalaki. Hindi siya yung parang, ang dami ng components, ang
Mm.
dami ng gagawin, parang, ano siya, mas approachable siya. Pero, in terms of rules complexity, mabilis ituro. Like, for example, Folded Wishes is 5 steps, di ba? And then, um, the action. So, parang ganun yung framework. The framework of the rule set, maybe 1 to 3 core steps, some variations inside, and then off you go. Then the rest of the instructions are now being delivered to you by the cards or the interaction of the components themselves. Uh, si ano nga eh, si Barono nga, di ba? Sa,
Hindi nag-English, barely speaks
so he
English.
can't speak English. Okay, so he went there on his own, can't speak English, so he's like really just expressing himself in a very charismatic way. So how does he teach games then? He brought a flowchart. Like literally was like, oh, you guys want to play my game? I cannot speak English. Here's the flowchart. You guys go ahead and read it. I'm like, that is amazing. I have never seen somebody make players read the rule book to play their game. Like in a demo scene. But I'm like, well, I mean, he probably knows how to write that flowchart really well because they played and they had fun. They had like they got the game idea, they were scoring it, they were discussing it, and and yun nga tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang tao na naglaro
Mhm.
sa table niya. I'm like, ang okay din yun. Parang if you are confident enough with your design and maganda na talaga siya, you could probably like have that as parang you are on one side, you're teaching, and you can have multiple tables, but you have just the flowcharts on them. If you want to try out to play this game yourself, here's the rules. I, yeah, like really good idea and amazing na kaya nila magawa yun.
Mhm.
Um, pretty impressed with it overall. And how about sir dun sa ano? Um, dun sa pricing ng games nila. What is your impression on the Singapore, the different markets? Kasi syempre, yun din ang magkakaiba eh, no? Something that we also observe na may mga
Mm.
differences ang countries in terms of how they
Yes.
price their games.
Yeah. I benchmarked when I priced our games for Singapore, I benchmarked it from what I know of the Singapore market. So ang kapresyo natin for that event were the Singapore games. So but when I was looking at the actual list ng mga presyo ng mga games, the games from Vietnam, from Thailand, from ano were much cheaper. So probably ito yun even if we sold well, we probably would have sold better if I had priced at par with Vietnam, Thailand, instead of Singapore. So yun yung medyo interesting kasi makikita mo talaga na every country has different price points. Yung sa atin kasi sa Pilipinas, in-adjust ko. And obviously, the guys from Vietnam and Thailand did not. So hindi nila in-adjust pataas for
Mm-mm.
Singapore. Kasi tayo, yung presyo natin actually is very low We're pricing our games that are published and marketed here in the Philippines lower than if they were being sold in the United States or Singapore. So nung dinala sa Singapore, I priced it siguro binenchmark ko sa Singapore prices.
Binalik niyo siya sa global SRP,
Mm.
kumbaga,
So nung nakita ko
basically.
yung mga presyo
Binalik niyo
nung
siya sa
galing sa
global SRP.
ibang countries, parang too late na. Sabi ko, papalitan ko yung presyo natin. Parang no, I don't want to do that because
No, it's
if I did that, it would look like we were desperate. Ay, wala tayong benta. 'Di ba? Kaya nag-price down tayo.
oh,
But thankfully, maganda pa rin yung benta even without us
yeah,
adjusting it.
yeah.
So,
And
talagang
I think it was fair price pa rin naman. I
mhm,
think the difference in the value of the dollar
mhm,
shows, kumbaga, because you're coming in from a country that's, you know, 40 times less than your dollar value, diba? So parang
mm,
may mga ganon changes, and then if they have access to production factories themselves, then suddenly
mhm.
nga their pricing position
Yes.
could be better
Mm.
than countries like ours, diba?
Yep.
Where our price position is very limited because of um, our
Where we, our
accessibility to where we
yeah,
are sourcing
production. Yeah.
our our game. So, but it was very interesting to see that in terms of the the spending interest or the gap between um, them liking the game and then buying it,
Mhm.
uh, the price, yeah, it's there, but I don't think it was really entirely a factor.
Yes.
Um, the Singaporeans, at least for that crowd that visited us for those 2 days, they're very interested in the gameplay. They're very interested in trying out new ideas, and uh, it that that showed in the numbers when because at the end of the convention they were already doing the tally, so they were like, okay, here's all of the folded wishes you brought in, and this is how much it was sold. And by the way, since it's one of the top earners, we're keeping the rest. We will sell it to in our online store. I'm like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
thank you. But that was a general thing for everyone. Of course, there were higher performers, Um, and that's just, games being sort of, apples and oranges being compared to each other. It's mainly about preference, but it was very interesting to see how interested they were to take home the games that they saw and played in that
Mhm.
convention, and
Yeah.
that willingness. And not they're mostly non-core gamers. I only heard the term deck building once in the whole convention. So most of the time, everybody I was teaching, I had to replace some of the terms that I'm using because I would add complexity based on how I assess their experience. And
Mhm.
so if I would mention the term meeple, for example, and they're not familiar with it, I would move it back to token because I noticed already that, oh, maybe they're not core gamers, they're not that familiar with the
Mm.
term. Um, so there were generally people that are not they have experience on games. The maturity of the market kasi of their games are pretty good in Singapore because you can buy Copy King on
On
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
It's like,
Yun.
okay, if makita ko in the future ang plataforma, ang hugot sa isang 7-Eleven mini stop,
Mm.
or the best kung may sari-sari store na meron. I think yun na yung alam na nating nag-mature na yung market.
Mm.
At the moment, definitely wala pa tayong nakikitang, modern game na design na nakikita natin sa loob ng uh, supermarket or 7-Eleven. But sa kanila, it's like, I'm buying a drink. Ay, dagdag ka na nga rin ng game. Baka mamaya may maisipan maglaro eh. Parang, wow. That just shows how ready or at least
Mhm.
welcome gaming is
Mhm.
in Singapore. It'll be interesting to see if this convention was done in other markets too. So maybe like, for example, it's done in Taiwan or it's done in Thailand. Uh, Maganda rin siguro makita ano yung reaction ng market. Kaya-kaya yun na iniikot yung Asian Board Game Festival. I don't know, but it's such a
Yes.
interesting idea, an exciting idea to see. Na parang, you're looking at this very grassroots level of a convention, but people supported it.
Mm.
Locals supported it, foreigners supported it. Their foreign secretary showed up, right? Was it?
Ano siya, hindi. Minister of, ewan ko eh, something education and whatever eh. Basta
Mm,
it's a Singapore minister.
yeah,
So the nice thing with countries like Singapore is I think yung culture nila, kaya nga isipin mo may minister parliament nila na pumunta
yep,
to the event because
yep,
talagang part na siya ng culture nila eh.
yeah.
So parang 'pag hindi siya pumunta, parang, "Uy, bakit?" Gano'n pa. So that's
Mm.
I found that very interesting while tayo sa Pilipinas, although we do have some friends in government that are really trying to, help
Yes,
us
yes, yes,
also,
yes. Yes, yes, agree.
hindi pa siya yung ano, eh, hindi pa siya
Hindi lang siya hindi pa nga siya as familiar sa
mm,
culture ng Pilipino yung, oh, tara, let's spend quality time, let's play some games.
mm. And
Um,
as this might sound bad, and I don't want this to sound like I'm looking down on the Philippines or on Filipinos, but yung experience nga namin dun is people were not afraid or intimidated if they see something that they think will make them think. In fact, 'pag nakakita sila ng gano'n, ang parang napapansin namin is nacha-challenge sila. And our experience here in the Philippines, unfortunately, when we're demoing at conventions or we're at malls trying to demo, ang naging experience namin is 'pag nakikita ng tao, "Uy, ano 'yan?" Tapos biglang mamaya makakarinig ka, "Ay, kailangan ata mautak diyan, eh." or kailangan na ata gumamit ng utak diyan, eh. So, ewan ko kung meron ba tayong yung parang self-inflicted
Yeah. Um,
na
I'm not
issue
sure
pagdating
nga
sa
if it's
isip.
a yeah. I know what you're saying, sir. And again, we're not saying that you know that we can't play the same games that the other
Mhm.
countries are playing. We absolutely can. We're
Yes.
competing in them. The world
Mhm.
chess champion just beat the world's best world chess champion, and he's Filipino. He's just not playing in for
For
the
the
Philippine
Philippines.
flag anymore. But he beat.
So, that's very telling. And, yung recent champion sa ano, sa Singapore, sa Southeast Asian, Championship for Magic was Filipino.
Yep,
So, we're
yep,
definitely
yep.
competitive. We just
Yes,
have to,
we have the talent. I think generally lang, siguro yung stigma ng playing and spending time on something that will make you work a bit in terms of puzzle, solving the puzzle.
mm,
It's not higher in the Maslow priority of needs, kumbaga.
yes.
Yun
Mm.
lang, mas mababa lang siya. Parang I'll do this if it's necessary. Whereas siguro in Singapore, it's a bit higher because I guess you know everything else is also a little bit improved.
Yeah.
So that could be the case. It could be simply as that, na parang it's not
Mm.
a priority in the local scene. But in terms of the talent, yun nga eh, yung design nga natin yung nagugustuhan nila. So alam mo talagang the intellectual um, treasures are there. They are very apparent. It's just that
Mhm.
it's not a mainstay yet. And now, what that at least from what we saw um, in terms of the design space is that yes, we would still want to make games that are appealing to the mass market.
Mhm.
Coax them into elevating
Yes.
um, their love for the puzzle solving, for the more intellectual styles of play. But at the same time, knowing now na okay, pwedeng hindi dun lang ang design space. Pwede tayo mag-design na rin for the Asian culture in general. Maybe talk about like yung copy game. It's like
Mhm.
wow, ang dami naming games na gustong gawin about like Philippine food. Tas yung isa kong game na about the Philippine Islands where you're traveling all throughout the Philippines. I'm like, these are things that I think would now become very interesting for other countries. They're going like, hey, I want to go there. Hey, that looks cool. Hey, I want to see that. And so those are games na parang I think it's now something a little bit more possible. Parang
Yes.
it opened up a little bit more of
Mhm.
our um
Playroom,
design space.
playing
The
area
play
ang tawag
yes,
dun.
yes. The
Yeah,
designers
not
play
natin
area.
we have to limit ourselves because of, we're always thinking, "Can we actually sell this much to the Philippines?" 'Di
Mhm,
ba?
mhm.
So, medyo limited tayo, eh. So, if the Asian market opens up for us, that opens up yung, allows us to have, more play space when it comes to design and,
Yep.
medyo mas
And
puwede natin pakawalan yung creativity natin, eh.
yeah. And I think what it would also still sort of influence back it. Kasi
Mm.
as more Filipino games are consumed in other countries as well, the more it would local markets would also be encouraged like hey because that's what's on the stores. A lot of our local stores are carrying foreign games, right? These are the mga A-list titles. They're all foreign, they're not local. Very few would carry the local game.
Mhm.
And so I think if they would see our games in shelves in Vietnam, in Taiwan, in Japan, then
Mhm.
it would also influence them. Hey, they guys are buying it there. Maybe
Yes, bakit ikaw
like
wala? Akala ko
FOMO,
ba
di
ikaw
ba?
Filipino gamer, ikaw wala kang Filipino game, 'di ba?
Yes,
O baka
yes.
hanggang like ka lang sa Facebook.
like and share.
diretsahan na 'no, diretsahan na. O kaya yung meron bang ano, "Yes, I support," ano, parang ganyan-ganyan. Ta's eto na, and it's like, it's accepted internationally but
Yeah. Okay lang. We're at the last bits of our ano. But yun, we were just really happy about the success. Daryl, if ever you get the chance to watch this, we spoke mostly in English, so you could mostly understand what we were saying.
mhm,
We really thank you for inviting us. If you invite us again, we would definitely, you know, go out of our way to bring some ideas in and get something new for the next round. And it's also inspired me to like, okay, how can I sort of bring those? Is it a possibility that maybe for Bacon, for example, we can invite some of these publishers in because ang challenge natin before is like, okay, let me bring in a publisher. Isa lang yun nandito sa Pilipinas eh. Tayo na yun eh. So parang, okay, here you go. Here's our game. Right? And of course, it still works. For Bacon, it still works. But now, if we could possibly invite the other publishers, if they're open around that time, maybe it's something that can also enrich,
mhm,
the accessibility of their games. So
yes,
yon, I think those are being in the works. I would defer to Sir Freddy for his agreements on their distribution and whatnot. Um, but there are a lot of really cool things that can happen in the next
yes,
few years. And this, I think, the Asian Board Game Festival is a good sign because you can really see if the Asian market collaborates and build things like yung sa MNL lang, sabi nila, we should, Akihibara, AK4, 48 should be doing this. And it's like, yeah, I know, that's where we got it in the first place. Right? So there are many collaborations that could happen in the future as
mhm,
well. So that's something that we are very interested in doing. But yeah, thank you everyone for still supporting this channel, LarongAtin, Variable Play, and of course, when you do get the chance to play the local games, please do so. But also expect the Asian designs that are quite good to also start to have some exposure. Hopefully, um, they would reach our areas too, and yeah, so things gems like these, you can get to try out. All right, it's an hour.
yep,
Thank you everyone for joining us, and this will be our last episode for the year. So, greet na namin kayo ng
mhm.
belated Halloween, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Keep safe, and may COVID pa rin, hindi pa rin siya nawawala. So, kailangan mag-mask pa rin as much as possible. Although hindi na kasi kailangan, siyempre kung feeling mo medyo may masama pakiramdam mo, maybe just protect yourself and in essence, protect others. Any words, sir? Sending them off?
Uh, yeah, again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm really looking forward to more collaborations within Asia and Southeast Asia. So that should open up doors for us. And a lot of the designers may, na within the region, meron silang konting hinanakit because we don't really get a lot of attention globally. And I guess it's a good time for us to give each other attention
Yep.
para ano. And hindi the designs are not, hindi mo masasabing inferior to the designs you see from the
No.
West. Hindi lang talaga tayo nakikita because we're all the way on the other side of the world. And
Yep.
iba talaga
16 to
yung
22
ginagalawan natin eh.
hours
Yeah.
far away.
Yes. So the Asian designs were amazing. Our designs were, they found our designs amazing. So yun.
Yeah. Cool, cool, cool.
So more
So,
power to all of us in Asia.
yes.
And sana yung Asian Board Game Festival nga umikot and
Yeah, that
will
will
eventually
be
find its way to the Philippines and to the other countries within Southeast Asia.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. So until next time, everyone. See you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, good night.